All right. Uh, I'm Kim Crawley, the founder of Stop Gen AI and the author of the upcoming book, Recovering After Gen AI. And joining me is I'm half ethnically Maltese, so please forgive me if I fuck up the pronunciation. Stephen Farrugia.
It's Farrugia. G.
Farrugia. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I very anglicized, so
No, it's okay. Me too. But I've had a life of correcting people when they pronounce it, so it's no problem.
All right. And so you write the Faster and Worse blog, which is your personal blog. And that's
Yes.
how I discovered you and your excellent opinions about technology and software development and how the tech industry is messing that up.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I actually haven't written a blog post for a long time, but I've also been making videos as well, which I haven't done for a while as well now, but I just found videos easier to just get something out. Otherwise, with blog post, I spend too much time writing and rewriting and then doubting and I just have a backlog of drafts. And I just found with the videos, if I just do kind of uh, off the cuff, if I think of something, just record and speak and and minimal edits, and it's easier to just get something out there and then to move on to the next thing.
That's interesting because for me, it's the total opposite. For
Oh,
me,
really?
it's way easier for me to write a blog than it is for me to do anything on video. Yeah, because video
Yeah.
makes me nervous. That's why my camera's off.
Yeah, I found that I mean, I really had to set boundaries. At first when I started making the videos, it was just like I thought what I'll do is I'll try and do maybe two a week, and and just push myself to not really care too much about what I say. Like to keep the edits to just like, well, if I speak too much off point, just to edit those out, and otherwise just try and keep it under 5 minutes and get something out. And it turned out to be a nice habit, and over time I got better at just kind of staying on track, and the edits became easier.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go. We all have
yeah,
our origin stories for our chosen mediums. So
yeah.
the premise of my book, my upcoming book, Recovering After Gen AI, which I'm going to post the Kickstarter link in the chat a little bit later on. So the premise of my book is that Gen AI will end. You hear the tech bros keep repeating their mantras, the cult members that they are. AI is here to stay. Get used to it. Get used to it. It's here to stay. It's here to stay. It's here to stay. Right? But all the indications point to the complete and total opposite conclusion. So there are multiple. In my thesis is that there are multiple reasons why Gen AI is definitely not here to stay. So, first of all, people who have researched the physics and the physicality and the environmental aspects of maintaining data centers and the absolutely ridiculous, beyond imagination amounts of electricity that they demand and water, and they can't just take any water. Data centers require fresh water.
Yeah.
And the Earth's supply of fresh water is relatively limited. So I already in my Kickstarter campaign on that page, I cite research and research analysis from people at MIT and at the UN and the Harvard Science Review doing meta-analysis that they, especially the guy Taylor, I forget his last name, who is doing meta-analysis for Harvard Science Review. says that it's basically against the laws of physics. Data centers, Gen AI data centers are unsustainable according to the laws of physics.
Yeah.
So that's you can't overcome the laws of physics. I'm sure Elon Musk thinks he can overcome the laws of physics, but that's because being a trillionaire has literally, it's a mental, like I'm not kidding, like it's a mental illness.
Yeah.
When you get that rich, or not even that rich, like even like you get to be a bit of a millionaire, that starts poisoning your brain.
Yeah.
So
This is what I find really interesting. So I come at it from a very different angle, and not like a conflicting angle, which is why I find it interesting, because I'm happy to kind of let all of these very you know like objective factors, be researched and come to be known about, like the energy concerns, the economic concerns, and obviously, the societal concerns, all of those things, right? And so why I find it interesting is I always come from a product point of view. A lot of the writing that I've done and the video work is about my views on like product design and kind of like product theory, and and I started doing this before ChatGPT, was released, because I was doing it about crypto mostly, and well, crypto was kind of my triggering uh, product category. I strictly call these product categories. I don't like to call them technologies. Um, and and so what I like to look at is, what makes a good product, right? And I like to think about it outside of, software, and really like hold software products to the same product standards as we would any other kind of physical, traditional, if you will, like traditional product. And continually, I see that these things, when you hold them in those standards, the cracks really start to show, like purely from a product perspective, like not necessarily ignoring all of those other factors, but you don't even really need to think about those before you can see, in my view, before you can see that these things just aren't viable, right? And AI, just, I think when you think about it as a product, right, you think about like these instances of generative AI, like ChatGPT, or all of the what are they called? OpenAI products, all of the Anthropic products, all of the whatever other AI companies there are. When you look at all of their products, which are essentially the same thing, different flavors of the same thing, and you think about what is a product, right? It is something that a commercial product, specifically something that you pay for, and in return, it gives you value which feels in balance with how much you paid for it. And the reason I like to compare that to physical products, all these software products, is because of the tangibility of physical products in the past. Even if it was something free or very cheap, it took up space, right? It takes up space in wherever, in your house. It takes up space in your car, in wherever you have this thing, in your kitchen, whatever. It takes up space. So there's this attribute of physical products which continually forces you, or nudges you to consider whether you need it or whether it's actually giving you something in return, earning its space. Um, and long before AI and crypto, software has really been creeping into this virtual, like completely virtual world of not taking up any space. SaaS, software as a service, is probably the biggest leap um, in shedding any of those attributes. Like software traditionally was on physical media or had to be installed on your computer. So like taking up space can be seen as taking up space on your hard drive, right? It has to be installed. Um, and even once you get beyond that, there was still like paying for it. Like before subscription models, you had to pay for software, up front. So it was taking up space in your finances, right? So there was always these, like, they were reducing over time, but there was always these cues to make you pause and think, well, do I need this product, or is this product the best thing for the thing I want it to do? And AI, or generative AI, LLMs, are like this ultimate version of a product shedding all cues for somebody to think about, like, do I need this, or is this the best thing for what I need, or what I want to do? Combined with the fact that, as SaaS, I think, has proliferated, you'll notice that most SaaS products are very generalized in their purpose, right? They really shed any kind of concrete purpose or any assertion from the makers on, like, specifically what they're for in a very concrete sense, right? They'll be very vague about things like productivity or like collaboration, but never really any more specific than that. And yeah, so that's where I'm coming from. Is the sense that AI has. Sorry, one moment. my son has just walked in.
Okay. So I posted a link to my Recovering After Gen AI Kickstarter in the chat. It is Kickstarter is my only source of income right now, and it's very, very scary, quite honestly. And it takes me about 3 months to work on that book, the research and the writing. And that amount of money isn't like a 3 months income. So please, please, please either support my Kickstarter or share it on social media. The campaign ends on August 5th, which I believe is Tuesday. So please, please, everyone, like, donate, share. The Kickstarter link is in the chat. I would really appreciate it. Just share the Kickstarter link. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, back to our usual programming.
Sorry about that. I'm alone with my boys, and I've told them only come in the room if it's something very, very important. And
Okay.
there was something very, very important. So excuse me. But anyway, that was probably a good opportunity for me to kind of stop that little rant and allow you an opportunity to talk.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about it because your perspective is you have experience as a software engineer.
Yes. Well,
So,
I was always like a web front end developer, uh, information architecture. I've done a lot of UX design and like product management roles. A real kind of combination of things. But it's more like the products that I've worked on that's really kind of influenced this thinking, and I've done a lot of, it's just a combination of all of these experiences that have led me to this point.
okay. So the one thing that I cite as a reason for Gen AI is not here to stay, which is relevant to software engineering, is model collapse. So model collapse, for anyone here who doesn't know, is when Gen AI feeds on input from like slop input output from other Gen AI. So basically, it's like mad cow disease for data. And so basically, however shitty, sloppy slop is, the slop will be even sloppier, shitty slop. That's what model collapse is. That's a very computer. I used all the computer sciencey terminology to describe that for you. So I hope you appreciate that. And then the third thing I cite is as to why Gen AI is not here to stay is the financial bubble, which our friend David Gerard talks about a lot. And the only reason why it hasn't officially popped yet is because venture capitalist entities like SoftBank, which is like the most ridiculous financial institution in the world, as far as I'm concerned, they keep injecting more and more billions into it because it's a like Gen AI is a large percentage of the American stock market right now. Like it's most of the American stock market. Like the American stock market is almost completely riding on Gen AI right now. I mean, and the reason why it's a bubble is because there isn't a significant relative to the massive expense. There is like of all the money that these shithead organizations are spending on Gen AI, the amount of money that's coming in from consumers and from like business consumers, like business clients, is like way less than like 1% of the amount of money they're spending on it. And it's not, then the tech bros will say shit like, well, Amazon lost money for the first several years. It's not a situation like that. There's no profitability down the line. They're just and then so not only is relative to the massive amount of money being spent on it, very, very little money coming in from actual consumers spending money on it. It's also it's a handful of evil tech companies are basically tossing the same several $billion between themselves. So OpenAI, CoreWeave, Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the only one that's not immediately doomed right now because they make the hardware for all this evil, horrible fucking shit. But it'll come for NVIDIA too at some point. So basically, yeah. So that is so we got model collapse, which is basically computer data inbreeding. We've got a bubble, which is very incestuous, and incest leads to inbreeding, and it's not it's sustainable according to the laws of physics. So when they say AI is here to stay, get used to it, they're probably inbred themselves.
So this is where like I think I can add like another angle again, like continuing the product thing where uh, uh, it's interesting what you say. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about the AI bros comparing it to Amazon not being profitable in the beginning, and I think Amazon's a really good example of why, from a product perspective, I think it will fail just purely from a product perspective. Amazon started out as a bookstore, right? It was a very specific offering. Right? The Amazon as a bookstore, I think, like I remember first using it because it was so amazing living in Australia, having access to an online store that was so big, like an online bookstore that was so big, and and I think they specifically claimed in the beginning that they had every book, right? Like you could just get any book there, right? And that was like a huge thing because I could before that in Australia trying to find very specific like uh, you know older books or things that were out of print and or just just very rare books. It was just an impossible thing, right? You just couldn't do it, and Amazon really opened that door. And that was kind of like a big part of it, just being this like the world's biggest bookstore, right? It was doing something very concrete, but Amazon. became profitable by generalizing, right? They started specific and they generalized. You know, even before AWS, you know, the store started doing, you know, branching out of books and just doing everything, right? Selling clothing and everything, you know, electronics and all that kind of stuff. And that combined with AWS, I guess, you know, really kind of got them to that point. But like my key point there is that they went from specific to general, right? Which is what most SaaS products do, right? You look at something like Figma, which started off as a very specific design tool, like competing with Sketch, with a bit more collaborative functionality. And over time, Figma has generalized to the point where I think it's more about collaboration than it is about actual drawing tools, right? And you know, Figma is huge. Uh, it it's just like a pattern which is consistently happening in software products to to really kind of widen the audience. Like generalization just widens the audience, and you can sell it based on these very kind of, you know, especially SaaS products, you can sell them on very kind of, like I said before, like very vague kind of uh, purposes, like collaboration and productivity, right? And it's interesting because AI started out as a very general purpose thing, if you could even call it like say the word purpose. Like it's just a very general thing. It was very much a toy that or an interesting demo that people found their own ways to kind of do. Like the whole concept of vibe coding, you know, really emerged from people using it. It was never a proposed or an asserted purpose of AI. Um, and so what you see happening with AI or generative AI, LLMs, is an attempt to go in the opposite direction. They started out general, but they're trying to be more specific in certain areas as, you know, we, the people, do their design work for them and find use cases. They pick whatever use case they think has the most potential, and they try to like claim to be specifically good at that thing. And this is where I think the product bubble exists for AI, because they are in a delicate balance of trying to say that it's good for these specific things, but I don't care what purpose you find it useful for. If you start trying to use it specifically for a certain thing, you're inevitably going to find that it's not good at that thing, right? Because it's not reliable, it's not consistent, you know, all of those factors, plus the economical factors, right? It's just the more you use it, the more expensive it's going to be. Trying to balance that with the fact that it's unreliable, inconsistent, or just flat out does not work. It's just where can it go, right? So yeah, in short, most products become successful when they become general and they stop trying to claim that they're the best at one specific thing or a few specific things, and they just kind of melt into these generalized blobs of features that people find useful enough to kind of make their own little workflows or, you know, use it in their own specific way. Whereas AI kind of has to work in the opposite direction, and the more it goes in that direction, the more it becomes kind of tangible.
Like
How?
what they say, it's a so-called solution looking for a problem.
Yeah, I think I think in like a very I think it's not right to say looking for a problem. I think well, for me, I feel more it's like a cool mechanism right? Because just like blockchain, right? It was like a very attractive mechanism if you don't think about how it can be used or what it's useful for, and you just look at the mechanisms that allow it to do these things, it's like very elegant. Like the Bitcoin blockchain mechanisms were very elegant from a like just a pure mechanism point of view. Um, um, and they're kind of just offered up as like, well, this is cool, and it feels like it it's powerful. So, we offer this up to you to try and find ways to use that power. And yeah, that's the best way I can say it. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not very. It's not very as clean as a solution looking for a problem. But I don't think it's that simple. I think it's more of like, yeah, it's more of um, a cool mechanism, asking people to find use cases. And the problem with that is it's a complete removal of the responsibility of design. Now, whenever I say the word design, I'm talking about um, the deliberation of ways to satisfy a purpose, right? I'm not talking about visual design, or it's like I kind of feel like I need to clarify that. They've removed all of that kind of like the design substance out of their responsibility, and they've put it on people using their thing, to do the design work. And they're just hoping that people are going to come up with these really kind of like viable use cases that they can pursue. And the problem with a general purpose thing like AI is that most of the use cases people come up with are not the kind of things that a company would like to say that they're making a product for, right? Um, Illegal activities and just creepy things, and yeah, that's kind of that's
So
my inability.
yeah, so we should be talking about the aftermath of Gen AI because
Yeah.
that's what my book is about, my upcoming book. And I definitely want to interview you, by the way, for my upcoming book and
Oh, for
pick your
sure.
brain and get your theories about stuff. Because now that we agree that AI is not here to stay, we understand that there's going to be an absolutely horrifying aftermath that is going to leave an immensely destructive impact on human society and our planet. And so the areas that I consider to be some of the challenges that we're going to face in the aftermath of Gen AI. First of all, we've got Gen Z or Gen Z, depending on which dialect of English you speak. Uh, Most of those people in that generation have not been able to enter the workforce, and it's not just I can't enter the workforce to get a job based on the degree I got in school. It's I can't even get a job at McDonald's kind of problem for a lot of people in Gen Z. And that is there's so many detrimental impacts from that. Like first of all, that's most of a generation who are going to be poor for the rest of their lives. There's probably going to be lots of suicides of despair and that sort of thing. And then the workforce, if you don't have new people coming in, seniors come from juniors who've had experience, right? So if we don't add juniors to the system and the seniors either retire or die or whatever, that spells doom for the workforce as well. So we got that problem. We've got, and this absolutely horrifies me. I thought that my public school in the 90s was bad, but I didn't have to worry about first of all, maskless COVID spreading. And to this day, COVID is still a significant pandemic that people prefer to ignore because their overlords told them to ignore it, and everyone else is ignoring it. And let's be a lemming and just join, and we'll deeply inhale the plague together. Yay! Not me, not me. I don't inhale the plague. I put my respirator on before I leave my home every single time. I'm never in public without my respirator on. But children do not have that kind of autonomy, and they are being forced into public schools maskless. That COVID is spreading constantly, and they're getting sick with COVID constantly, nonstop. It's destroying their immune systems. It's causing permanent damage to their bodies and their brains. And then on top of that, schools are shoveling Gen AI into their faces. So they're not learning how to go to a library and learn about the Dewey Decimal System and look at books, or even look stuff up on the web like we did in the 90s and 2000 knots and 2010s. They are being taught to just ask ChatGPT or whatever horrible LLM implementation ed tech is being shoved in their faces. So their brains are young and impressionable, and they're being wired in such a way that is very terrifying to me. And that's going to have like the combination of the COVID brain damage, and I have like an immense amount of scientific citations for COVID brain damage. On top of that, Gen AI related cognitive brain damage. The kids these days are doomed. They are doomed unless they have parents who keep them out of the public school system and keep respirators on their faces and keep them out of all that stuff. Otherwise, they are doomed. So that really worries me. Environmental destruction, yeah, it's gotten so bad that we cannot reverse climate destruction at this point. And anyone who's in Western Europe, especially this summer, you're in Australia, so it's your winter now. Do you notice though
No,
when it
I'm not in Australia. Sorry, I'm in Amsterdam, in the
well then
Netherlands.
you're
Yeah,
feeling that Western
yeah, yeah,
European, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry about that. I keep forgetting about
I,
where in the
I
world my friends are from.
I'm from Australia. I live in the Netherlands, though. Yeah,
Okay. Have
yeah,
you learned any Dutch?
a little bit.
Oh,
I'm struggling. I'm quite slow to learn languages, so it's taking time.
so anyway, so you our Dutch like urbanists keep bragging about how wonderfully planned Amsterdam is as far as being walkable and accessible to cyclists and whatnot it is. But what about Dutch homes? Do they tend to have air conditioning or not?
I think air conditioning is quite popular here. In the homes. I don't know about the apartment buildings, like in houses, it's quite popular, but I think it's a little bit. I don't know. I couldn't say. I mean, I've lived in two different apartments, and they both had an air conditioning unit in them. So uh, I don't know what the standard is, though.
Okay, your home has air conditioning.
Yeah, but I mean, the summers here are normally only. Well, I've only been here for 3 years, and you only really get a few weeks of like the kind of heat that would need air conditioning. But this year has been by far like the worst one, where it's been hot. Like we had that heat wave about 2 weeks ago, which was
Suppose my
quite
point
insane.
is, even though climate disaster can't be reversed at this point, it's still not a good idea to accelerate it even further. And that's what these Gen AI say data centers are doing. Plus the additional problem of sucking up the fresh water in the earth. I'm really fortunate because I live directly on, so the Great Lakes in North America between Canada and the United States are the world's largest supply of fresh water in the world. Did I say world's largest freshwater supply in the world? I swear that was my ADHD. So when I say I couldn't possibly live closer to Lake Ontario, I mean it. Like literally, my apartment building is directly on the shore of Lake Ontario. So I am expecting that there's going to be mass migration coming to there's going to be mass migration going farther from the equator in both directions because of climate disaster and like in unbearable heat. But also there's probably going to be mass migration toward the Great Lakes region of North America because of the fresh water and because of the earth being depleted of fresh water. And Gen AI data centers are doing that. So there is a water utility company in the UK, I forget what it's called, but they were saying that they were concerned about all the data centers being built in the UK because they know that there isn't enough fresh water to supply them. And then we got the poor people who live near data centers, and they are poor because if they weren't poor, they wouldn't live near data centers and they'd be able to move. The reason why the data centers being built there is because they're poor and they can't, they're not going to build the data centers next to Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, where rich people live. They're going to build them where poor people live. And then, of course, poor people can't afford to move. And then poor people are getting tortured by nonstop noise pollution that makes them unable to sleep or even think. And then we got they're getting electric. I say hydro bills. Hydro is like Ontario, Canada language, but they're getting electricity bills that they cannot afford, to say the least. So even though it's not Gen AI is not poor people's fault, it's billionaires' fault, but they are being burdened with the electricity prices, which, fuck capitalism, eh? So we got that. So the environmental destruction, there's going to be less and less of the planet that is going to be sustainable for human life and capable of producing agriculture. So there are likely going to be like a few billion people dying because of all this, because of less and less of the planet being habitable. And that might even happen that'll likely happen within my lifetime. I'm only 42 years old, and I think I'll probably make it to at least 60. So I think I'll probably see it in my lifetime. So we got that. We've got there's probably millions of people in AI psychosis. They think that the chatbot is a person and they have a deep, profound relationship with them. When the infrastructure for all this Gen AI bullshit collapses, which I anticipate it will in the next couple of years, because of the reasons I previously stated, they're going to have immense nervous breakdowns and psychological outrages and like my brain is gone, my brain is gone, my brain is gone, my AI wife is gone. Like the kind of crisis that we're going to be facing from children whose brains are destroyed, who were never given the opportunity to develop their brains effectively. All right. And then we got adults who are in love with their chatbots and dependent on them for their thinking, and they're going to have mental breakdowns. That's why I'm interviewing psychologists and whatnot for the book to explore that further. There's already been some research done in that area, but we should be doing more in that area, right? Now, so there's going to be a massive amount of abandoned data centers, billions and billions and billions upon billions of dollars worth of abandoned data centers with abandoned silicon, like massive amounts of e-waste, and probably damage to the electrical grid, which is why I'm also talking to electrical engineers and people like that for the book. What do you anticipate are some of the horrible crises that we're going to have to dig ourselves out of?
It's a hard one to follow, what you just spoke about. Um, I mean, yeah, it's I think it's so difficult to predict. Um, um, yeah, all I can see is like you say, like the infrastructure can't like this product category can't support itself without the infrastructure, which is just like increasing in costs, like monetary costs and energy costs, exponentially as it supposedly gets better or takes on more users, or like the more it's needed, the more it needs. And so that collapses, right? And yeah, like that void afterwards is kind of scary. Well, it's really scary for all the reasons that you state. And I think the psychological damage as well, just in recovering from that. There's people, if we see it in our lifetime, who grew up in a world without AI, who probably would see that void as something you fill with creativity and invention, because you have to, right? That's where a lot of creativity comes from, right? Is this kind of this void of or this kind of tough situation where you need to fill a void. And so there's that, like, to try and have some kind of positivity around this. But yeah, people who are growing up with I think are going to have more trouble recovering, just mentally, uh, no matter in what way they use it, uh, that cognitive offloading, whether you're aware that you're doing it or not, like that internal void, I think would be much more devastating on the mind than it would be for people like us who, knew a world without AI. So yeah, I think, like, in the long term, that's how I think about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't see us going much more than 6 to 8 months without something catastrophic failing in that whole AI ecosystem. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's very soon or if it's far away that we can talk about it in terms of our lifetime. But yeah, it's sorry, yeah. I don't like to try to be like too predictive, try to think too much in terms of um, you know, trying to guess what's going to happen. All I can do is look at it in the context windows that I am familiar with, um, and yeah, it's in that sense, like the product sense, like I've talked about. Um, what you do see is the use cases that people come up with, where, like, like the coding, right, for example, which is probably the strongest. I don't think it's like it's effective. I don't think people should be using AI for coding. But as far as like viable business models, coding is probably the strongest one. And it's interesting to look at that from the perspective of, well, people are finding it useful in whatever sense you want to take that, but they're finding it useful. And the way I like to look at those use cases is, well, useful is not a a like useful is the bare minimum for a product, right? It's not impressive. What you want is something to be really good or the best thing for that thing, right? So if they're saying that AI is useful for coding or for like testing or for detecting vulnerabilities or any kind of thing like that with code, what they're really doing is they're finding things that they need, right? They've found that hey, it would be cool to automate this in some way or to have a tool specifically for doing this better, right? So if you think about those kind of things, when AI goes away, when it all falls apart, those use cases in the sense of what they found it useful for, that remains. And this is where I think the invention and creativity comes in to fill the void, right? You hang on to those things that you found it useful for, and then you have to find a way to make something else that does that. And what I find interesting about that is then what you're in an actual healthy design process where you have found a design purpose. You've found something that you want to satisfy with some sort of creation, some sort of, call it a product, whatever, some sort of tool, some sort of thing that you make, right? And you're in a real design process where you're forced to think about ways to achieve that thing. And that's interesting to me because if you were to take any of the things that people find AI useful for now, right? To whatever degree useful means, if you take anything that people find AI useful for, and then you take what that purpose is, say coding or like, yeah, coding, right? Writing code, automating code generation, right? You take that purpose, you isolate it away from AI. You forget that AI is used to do this, and you think, okay, I want to automatically generate code that does something specific that I need, right? And then you think about that in a design process, a healthy design process, where that is your immovable, immutable purpose. And you're in the process now to satisfy that purpose with some sort of creation. Think about how crazy it would be to say, okay, I want to make something that generates code automatically. I think the best solution is to make a product which consumes all of the world's fresh water, ingests all of the human created text, video, audio, everything, mushes it all together, and then kind of spits out correct sounding answers, right? That is the most insane, like just ridiculous way to satisfy that purpose. You would say you wouldn't even think about something like that, right? Yet that's the size of the thing that people are saying is useful for generating code, right? It's like it's just crazy, right? So yeah, I think that that's the size of the void that will go away, that will be created. Yet those things that people found it useful for will then hopefully, to be as optimistic as I can be, would then kind of create a new wave of creativity and innovation. I prefer
That's where we disagree. I don't see anything positive about Gen AI whatsoever.
this is not positive about Gen AI. This is I'm talking about I'm talking about the optimism of what happens afterwards, right? And this is like an optimism in kind of the human innate ability to create, right? And filling that void of finding that they actually do need something to do a certain thing is going to be a driving factor in creating this human creativity explosion, hopefully. There's no way that I'm saying that yeah, there's nothing positive about AI in that. All I'm saying is that AI, if there's anything it might have done, is it might have made people see that they would like to have something to do certain things, right? And whether it's through AI infrastructure falling apart or AI being used over longer periods to try and achieve that thing, they're always going to find that it's not going to do what they need it to do. So at some point, they'll get to a point where they have to invent without using AI.
Or
And
maybe their brains are too damaged from all
yeah,
that
well,
rock
then
use that they won't be capable of
that,
doing.
and that's entirely possible. Yeah. So that's the best answer I can give without trying to be too predictive. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't see any silver lining in any of this. I
fair
you
enough. It's fair enough. Like I said, I don't think I'm right in any sense. I just that's just a trajectory I can imagine. But there's obviously going to be a lot of other factors that I haven't considered that could prevent that from happening. And but
I
you
mean,
have to
my
hope.
main advantage is I've been protecting my brain by not delegating my thinking to the slot bot. To make it clear, just so that everyone knows, I do not use Gen AI for anything at all whatsoever. And if I ever did, then I would probably want to kill myself because that is just horrible and detestable as far as I'm concerned. The only pass that I give for people as far as using Gen AI is concerned is A, you've got a figurative gun in your ear from your employer to use it. And I know that it's not easy to find jobs. I know because I'm struggling to survive financially because I've been living according to my principles in a very evil and in a world that rewards evil and punishes virtue. I chose to be virtuous and I'm being punished for it. So I know that it's not easy to find a job. And so if you are an employee or a precarious independent contractor and the company that you work for is forcing you to use Gen AI, I give that a pass. And I also give a pass if the UI of your operating system or application or web application tricked you. So you didn't intend to use Gen AI, but because these user interfaces are being designed deceptively to trick people into using it, you were tricked into using it. That I give a pass to. For anything else, no, you don't get a pass. If you are a SEO contractor and your client says we can't SEO isn't a thing anymore because Google search really isn't a thing anymore. So can you help us improve our ChatGPT visibility? No, I don't give a pass for you going along with that. I don't, that's horrifying. If you are a consultant, you have more power in that relationship than a precarious employee or independent contractor. And if you go along with your client's absolutely horrifying idea, you are a bad consultant. And I have some experience with being a consultant. I have consulted uh, businesses on enterprise cybersecurity practices. So yeah, if you go along with something horrifying that your client wants, that's on you, and I don't give a pass to that. But if you got much less power, if you're like an employee, a precariously employed contractor, that's different. I give that a pass. So yeah, and to be quite honest with you, when I see slop, it's a trauma trigger for me. Like it is literally a trauma trigger for me. I've got multiple layers of PTSD, and now Gen AI is like a whole nother layer of PTSD on top of all the other layers of PTSD. I can identify slop images and slop text very well. And when I do stumble upon it, it horrifies me. It's a trauma trigger. Um, I people who hate Gen AI because they're good, reasonable people would absolutely love the experience of using my laptop or using my smartphone because I basically have a laptop and a smartphone that is completely devoid of Gen AI. If the only times that I do see Gen AI is like on social media, on the web, when I stumble upon it and I'm horrified. But and the reason why I'm able to do that is because I've got Red Core Linux is my operating system on my laptop. I've got Graphene OS, which is a fork of Android, which absolutely does not contain Gemini, which is the crucial thing as far as I'm concerned, as the operating system of my Pixel phone. And it is possible if you own the devices and if they're not Apple devices where replacing the operating system is close to impossible, then that is a possibility. And so, the Stop Gen AI website, we have a whole web page on how to avoid Gen AI. I did a video with Ryan Wilson about it. We also have more resources like from Alexa and whatnot, and the Starlight Network about AI-free software and whatnot. You also need to choose web browsers that are relatively safe from Gen AI. You need to choose as much software as possible. If you don't have control over your computer because it's managed by your employer, that's different. And that's, I'm sorry if you're in that situation, that's fucked. But if you do own and administrate your endpoint devices, it is possible to avoid Gen AI completely. So, are we ready for a bit of a Q&A session?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So just say something or like raise your hand or whatever.
It's okay if there's no questions. I don't mind.
Okay, this is your last call. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Like, maybe it doesn't have to be a question, like a comment would be fine too. All right, so I'll take that as a no. So I really enjoyed though, you've had a lot of insight from like a software engineering perspective, and honestly, I've explained to my former students in academic setting basically what software engineering is. I understand software development uh, in a as well as I possibly could without being a software developer and being good at it. I'm better at like contextualizing it for other people. But so you bring that software development perspective to this, which I really appreciate it, which is why I want to interview you for my book. And yeah,
Yeah, I'd love that.
so
That sounds
yeah,
cool.
that would be great. So please, 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 everyone, I put the link to my Kickstarter in the chat. Either pledge or share that link on your social media. I would really, really appreciate that. I need that money to survive, and I lose sleep over my monetary survival a lot of the time these days. I went from making like 100 grand a year, like in 2022, to panicking over how I'm going to pay my rent each month. That's what Gen AI did to my livelihood. So I'm probably not alone. There's probably millions of us in the same sort of position. So yeah, please, if you can help spread the Kickstarter link, I would really, really appreciate it. The Kickstarter campaign ends on August 5th, and I foresee that the book will be published in October. Thank you very much, everyone.
Cool.
You've been great. So I'm going to make a YouTube video out of this audio and share it around. Yeah, thank you very much. I am gonna like heart you. That's great.
Thanks for attending. I hope I made a little bit of sense. But yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
You have your own ADHD rambles, and so do I.
Yeah.
I think most of us are neurodivergent. I think these fields attract neurodivergent people. So
Oh yeah, there's definitely something in that uh I think people who care about what they're making and what they're doing rather than just being interested in getting stuff done. I think is a common attribute with ADHD people. Um, and yeah, I think that brings a lot of us together.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's been great. I
Cheers.
am going to end this session now.